Today I'm going to show you the common cause of rear brake binding and a cheap easy fix without having to replace any parts. As you can see, that wheel only just turns. We come around the other side. I've started to strip it down and I'll just show you the parts and what the problem is. So here we've got the brake disc. The brake pads are held in this carrier. You can see I've already unbolted it. Brake caliper goes round outside the pads, squeezes them together when you put your foot on the brakes. The problem here is when you release the brake, the pad should be free and they should come away from the disc, but they're not. They're seized in. So I'll get it across the bench and I'll just show you what's happening. So as I showed you earlier on, this is the brake pad carrier, and as you can see, these pads are quite tight. In fact, this one is just so jammed I could hardly get it out. The problem is you've got these little stainless steel guides that these sit in, and the problem is behind these guides, this is all starting to rust. As you can see in there, it's rusting, it's corroding, it's pushing these out, jamming the pads. So all we've got to do, clean this off with a file, put it back together, and then I'll show you how free it is. Just to give you an idea, you can now see, if you look in there, how shiny that is, where I've got all the rust off. So we'll just get this put back together, and then I'll show you the next step. Right, here we are back. So before we put this back together, just a little bit of copper grease on here, just to try and help stop that corroding. Problem with our British winters, salt, rain, mud, everything gets in here, corrodes these rear brakes. And these rear brakes don't get used as much as the front, so these pads don't get moved around that much. And that is part of the problem as well. This is why you'll get this problem on the rear much more than on the front. So we get these little carrier shims back in, and then you will see the difference there. That's how it should be. Look, nice and free. So you put your foot on the brake, push the pad in, take your foot off the brake, it allows it to come back out a little bit. Same with this side. Get this in there. Also add a tiny little bit just to grease just to the end of these pads. Again, not too much, because you don't want it getting on the braking surface, which is that bit there. Put that down. Then I'll just get this back on, get it all bolted up, and show you the wheels spinning nice and freely. Right, we're now back together. As you can see, all bolted up. A lot freer. In fact, if I just put my hand on the brake, offload the brake a couple of times. There, look at that, still free. Now, one last little thing to take note of. I've had the caliper off, I've been pulling on the cables, and if you look just here, this cable has popped out of its little clip. So just before you put everything back together, just make sure that's all sorted out and you haven't got any cable, because otherwise that'll rub on the wheel. So there you have it, rear brake binding fixed without replacing any parts, nice and cheap.